Welcome live to the Overrated Experience Sports and Sports Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Blondin. This is the Overrated Experience, which is a sports betting podcast, also followed by my own preview of reviews. So like them or hate them, you're going to get them. And we're broadcasting live on Facebook and YouTube. Trust me, it's not easy to figure this out, how to get online, but that's maybe my age showing. But anyway, here we are. The Overrated Experience Sports and Sports Betting Podcast will also be available on the various different platforms if you can't listen live, Spotify, Apple Music, etc. You can follow the Overrated Experience at Overrated EXPER2. That's Overrated EXPER2 on X. And what we're going to talk about here predominantly is the NHL playoffs round 2. I know what you're saying right now is that round 1 is totally not completed, but we're getting to the end and we got to get going to be ready for round 2. So we got the Winnipeg Jets, St. Louis Blues tonight. We'll cover that a little bit. And we'll go into each series. We're going to look at some great bets, some insight, some thoughts, kind of maybe look back on, some of the first round performances, what that means for some teams that are no longer in the NHL hunt for the Stanley Cup. So more to come. Welcome. And I'll warn you ahead of time, this is a square point of view when it comes to sports betting. I'm not going to lead you to the promised land when it comes to making the millions. I'm going to give you the entertainment factor. I'm going to give you my thoughts. I'm going to give you the opportunity to respond as I chug a couple beers, have a few sips of water, keep myself going as long as this podcast goes. So here we go. I got my trusty notebook right here, ready to go. Just throwing it up there. So there's a lot of, note taking, a lot of things I'll reference. You'll see me looking down at the notebook. Background, I can tell it sucks. It's not the greatest background. It's a generic background that Riverside provides. That's our broadcast provider here. In the future, I'm hoping to get a little more technologically advanced with a more of a unique background as my ear cuts off, my headphones cut off. So we'll see what's going on down the road and we'll get going. Try to be available on X as well. We're not able to get the profile up and running right for this broadcast, but maybe for the round 3 preview, we'll get into it. And then, of course, as we travel towards September, the main focus is going to be NFL football. You goddamn right. Football is the king of sports betting, and you'll find the Overrated Experience all over that week to week. And in between, we'll see what happens. Now, just going into today. Today's Sunday, roughly 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. What's the lay of the land in the NHL right now? We had a pretty good, I'm going to say out of 10, I would say 8 out of 10 when it comes to entertainment value in the first round. Do we have any real surprises? Not really. I don't think we got a huge amount of upsets I don't think we got really many upsets. I think the Dallas-Colorado series that wrapped out last night, we have Dallas moving on. Maybe the biggest event there was how Colorado fell apart, midway through the third period. The story of Mikko Rantanen, former Avalanche, former Hurricane, coming back to haunt the Colorado Avalanche last night, scoring 4 points, the hat trick to knock out the Avalanche. You can't take a beating like that in any other scenario. You have the Colorado Avalanche that made a business decision to move Mikko Rantanen in favor, and they got a pretty good haul. And Natchez picked up and a few others. It's not a bad haul. However, what you got was you're making a business decision because you had the fear that you couldn't re-up him, you couldn't bring him back, and you fear losing him for nothing. But did you really bank on where your franchise was at the moment? You have a franchise that's looking to make a cup run this year, right? Yeah, the window's still open for the Avalanche years ahead. But the peak year was in 2025. And they decided, again, to make a business decision to move on from Mikko Rantanen because they didn't want to get left empty-handed. Who made that call? Was it Joe Sakic, GM of the Colorado Avalanche? Who was it? Ownership? Was there a policy that we don't want anybody, who we're going to lose and leave without nothing? I don't get that philosophy. I get it. I don't get it as an absolute, right? The Colorado Avalanche could have rode McKinnon, Rantanen to the Cup final this year, and you pissed it all away. You decided to be average. All right? It would have shocked me if the Avalanche made a run. But no, I'm going to say no, it wouldn't have. But when you get an event that happened last night, Game 7, where your former star, guy you had to trade away due to a contractual reason, nothing else, comes back and mows you down, embarrasses you. You have your superstar Nathan MacKinnon. You know that guy's going ape shit. He's going ape shit because he's a winner, and he's absolutely disgusted. He looks over at Edmonton and says, the Oilers are going with Draisaitl and McKinnon to put the team on their back. Why didn't you let me have this, with Mikko Rantanen? The results are the results, and the Avalanche are moving out, and the Stars are moving on. So, we don't know who the Stars are going to play yet, but the story about Mikko Rantanen is a big one. And the fallout in Colorado, that might be a problem with McKinnon going down the road of not trusting management. What are the decision making? What's the philosophy? I mean, what's the goal here? Nathan MacKinnon is in his prime, and then you pissed away another year to get multiple rings. They got that ring. Nathan MacKinnon has that ring, but who was it with? It was with Mikko Rantanen. So there's going to be a fallout in Colorado. But we're going to see how it plays out. But ugly for the Avalanche. Absolute value and justification to not only make that trade with the Carolina Hurricanes, but to sign Rantanen to a long-term contract. Absolute justification. They're off the hook. We'll see what happens. But that's the series that tied up last night. We have another Game 7 tonight. Winnipeg and St. Louis, the St. Louis Blues. This has been a home team type of series. Interesting series. I mean, when Winnipeg is away from home, they don't look like they can hang, right? It gets away from them. It gets ugly. The Blues stomp on them, right? We're talking about the President's Trophy winning team here in the Winnipeg Jets. And when they're on the road, which is abnormal compared to the regular season, that they are getting stomped. And it begins with Kyle Hellebuck. It begins with Hellebuck, right? He's just not stepping up, man. Like there are goaltenders in the playoffs that feel that you just can't beat them. And Sergei Bobrovsky of the Florida Panthers, which we'll talk about in depth with the Leafs starting Monday, is one of those guys. He gets in your head. I can't beat him. I got to have the perfect shot. I can't float one on net. I have to have an open lane. I have to have the perfect one-timer. If my aim is just off a little bit, if there's any doubt that I'm going to get the puck on net, I got to get the puck to somebody else. And it gets in their head. With Hellebuck, something's going on there, right? He's going to be our 2024-25 Vezina Trophy winner in the NHL this year. There's hands down, it's not going to change. All right, he's up for the award. I think it's a slam dunk. But when you really tie in how he's performed in the playoffs, and not just these playoffs, there's been some real question marks. Yes, he's made a couple big saves over the last couple games. You've seen paddle saves, wide open nets. Those are great highlights, but their end result is he's not stealing games, and that's part of the bread and butter of the Winnipeg Jets. Connor Hellebuck is not stepping up the way they expect. And tonight, though, redemption. Your redemption right now is to move this Winnipeg Jets team on, to stand on your head, to perform, and to get to the next round. Can he do it? Jury's out. What's hurting the Winnipeg Jets and is going to really be a standout tonight is no Scheifele. Scheifele is out. And really, I mean, they need all hands on. Mark Scheifele is a go-getter. He's a gamer. He's a difference maker in that Jets lineup. Once again, one of the reasons why they're President's Trophy winning team. Can they get by? If they were on the road in St. Louis, I would say no. I still think that the Jets will somehow squeak out a win here tonight against the St. Louis Blues. And hats off to the St. Louis Blues. Jim Montgomery comes in. Boston, piss away Jim Montgomery. He comes into St. Louis, turns that team around. What do they have, a 14, 15 game winning streak to put them into the wild card? Absolutely outrageous. The real sign that coaching is a difference maker in the NHL. So Montgomery is an example of that. But I just think that home ice advantage, the whiteout in Winnipeg, is going to be the difference in this series. And the Jets, although I believe they're going to win this series, they're going to limp in against Dallas. They're going to open at home. That's the privilege they had for having the best overall record in the NHL. But they're going to limp in to that series against Dallas. And I think the Dallas Stars are on, that stock is going up. That Jet stock is going down. And most of it is because Connor Hellebuck not playing at the level they need him to play at, elite level. And then the injuries will start going to pile up for the Jets. So we'll see what happens tonight. But one bet that really stands out to me here is plus 150 on FanDuel for this game to go over 5.5. Do we think it's going to be a grind out 0-0, 1-0, 2-0 game? I don't know, man. I think the value's on the over. That 150, it's called, keep in mind, if you've never joined us, the name of the podcast is the Overrated Experience as a reference to liking overs. That's the square side of me that doesn't take, hey, entertainment does come into my decision making, and that's kind of what I'm trying to get away from. But I can't ignore the value that one team might start running up this score. And then you get into the third period where season's on the line. There's no tomorrow. There might be 2 empty net goals in a 3-2 game, heading into the last 5 minutes. It might end 7 goals. So watch out. There's different decision making on that ice when you're in a game 7 and things get away from you. 3-1 lead in the third period might work out. Last night, Dallas was going 1-0 in the third period, ended 4-2. So we'll see what's happening there. We'll see the results, but I think the Jets are going to pull it up. But like the over, take the over, plus 150. Now looking at some of the odds now that we're going to begin round 2 of, as I've used FanDuel, Bet365, and DraftKings as my North Star barometer on what the betting market looks like. Of course, there's many books out there, and I would encourage you to utilize those many books because of the different odds. And if you decide to pick a future, then you really need to know which book is going to give you the best value. So out of these 3 books, and we're looking at the overall odds to win the Stanley Cup now that we've weeded out, half the teams in the playoffs, except one series. The Dallas Stars on FanDuel take top spot at 380, plus 380. Florida Panthers plus 420 on FanDuel. However, Florida kind of jumps to the top in many of the books with Bet365 and FanDuel. Carolina still remains a top dog on FanDuel at plus 500. And Edmonton plus 550. Vegas plus 650. Washington plus 1,000. The Leafs plus 1,000. If you're going to bet the Leafs, and I know many of you will, you crazy sons of bitches in the T-Dot that are waiting since 1967, and most of you haven't breathed there back in 1967, are going to lay some cheddar on the Maple Leafs at plus 1,000. Because if you look at FanDuel and Bet365, and I know many Canadians in Toronto especially are on Bet365, and you're going with the Leafs, that's plus 700. Go out and make that FanDuel account right now at plus 1,000. If you're going to bet $500 or $100 on a future right now, don't waste your time on Bet365. If you're taking the Leafs, take them on FanDuel and the various books depending on what it is. So as an example, if you like Dallas, you want to go on DraftKings. They're plus 550. You don't want to go on FanDuel plus 380. Use your head. Use your options. As much as it can be bad, because it can be really bad if you can't handle the responsibility of gambling, that the accessibility to these sites is very fast, quick, and you get to bet down the next 10 minutes if you wanted to, and that's going through the whole hoops of opening an account. So do your research, do your homework, take the time to look at what odds are available to you and what makes most sense and what's going to put more money in your pocket. Now, when you look at Conn Smythe for the NHL playoff MVP, the current odds, there might be some value here. There's a little bit of differentiation between the books. I'm going to point out some of those. So again, I'm going to use FanDuel, Bet365, and DraftKings. So on FanDuel, Connor McDavid, McJesus, like some of you like to call him. Man, the guy's the best player in the NHL. There's no question. If there's going to be a player that carries a team on his back, it's Connor McDavid. What I do is I do respect the Edmonton Oilers. They at least don't hide that, fuck it, he's our guy. We're all in on Connor McDavid. We're gonna run the wheels off of Connor McDavid in his prime, him and Leon Draisaitl, until he can't go no more. Or until he says, screw it, I'm out of Edmonton, I'm off to the Rangers, Detroit, Toronto, whatever it may be, which will happen at some point. But for now, you run the wheels off of this kid. And he's plus 950 to win the Conn Smythe for NHL MVP. Mikko Rantanen, he's the flavor of the day, guys. I'm not saying it's a wrong flavor. I'm not saying a flavor you don't ride, and it shouldn't be your favorite flavor for the rest of these playoffs because Dallas could make a run like anybody else. But man, the last 2 games of performance of Mikko Rantanen has been the reason why he's shot up the Conn Smythe odds here. He's plus 1,200 on FanDuel to win the Conn Smythe. And if you really wanted to go with Mikko Rantanen, you really want to go to Bet365 because they got him at plus 1,400. And you have Jake Ottinger. Man, people loving the Stars. Plus 1,400 to win the Conn Smythe on FanDuel, but you want to absolutely be on either DraftKings or 365 on that one because they got him at plus 1,800. Leon Draisaitl, he's been a horse. I don't think if they make a run that he's going to supersede McDavid in the playoffs for this, but there's every chance he can because he can really run up the goal total, which I think will be a thought factor for voters out there. So he's plus 1,500 on FanDuel, only 1,400 on both 365 and DraftKings. And if you go down further, you got Sebastian Aho's plus 1,600. But Bobrovsky, so if look at it this way, this is, again, justification why you want to look around to different books if you're interested in putting some money down. Bobrovsky is a plus 1,600 to win the Conn Smythe on FanDuel, but plus 2,200 to win on DraftKings. Let's look at that. You tell me, based on what you've seen from Sergei Bobrovsky the last few years. 2 years ago, cup run. On my back, let's go. They lose against Vegas. Last year, on my back, let's go. Cup winning team. All right? Now, the only time the Florida Panthers look beatable last year and this year is if he plays average. There is times in the playoffs where he could be down to that average factor, but for the majority of the time, he's difference maker time. Difference maker Sergei Bobrovsky. Standing on his head, he gets in your head, gets in your kitchen, you can't score. You cannot beat him. You're not going to run up 3 or 4 goals. You better play tight because if you give up 3 or 4 goals, you're not coming back. That's the value that Sergei Bobrovsky offers. That is value in the betting world. Plus 2,200 should be something you're considering. And then you go down the aisle, you got Barkov plus 1,700, Jack Eichel plus 1,900. I mean, he had a slow start so far in the playoffs, but he can get it going. He can get hot. We'll see what happens there. And then just looking at the first round performance and looking at the leaderboard in the points production and goal scoring, Mikko Rantanen, 12 points, 5 goals, 7 assists. The only player ever to have a hat trick in a third period in the Stanley Cup playoffs. If that stat is correct, that's what I heard last night. 4 points in the third period last night, really inflating his overall series support. And they're banking on him to be a difference maker in Dallas. McKinnon, 11 points, 7 goals, 4 points. And I'm sure Nathan McKinnon is absolutely going off and probably will have a few words to say to Joe Sakic on what occurred during the season getting rid of Mikko Rantanen. And you go down the board, not surprising, you see Connor McDavid. You have Adrian Kempe for the Kings, had a great first round and a loss, though. Draisaitl, time points, 3 goals, 7 assists. I really thought he would hit that 5-goal mark. Really didn't do it, but I think it's going to be brighter things ahead for the Edmonton Oilers and Leon Draisaitl as far as statistics. And you got Kirill Kaprizov. What a playoff for him. I mean, he was shining against the Vegas Golden Knights, so they kind of, shut him down near the end. But he just came out just showing the rest of the world what a skilled player he is in Minnesota. Kyle Connor, going to need him big tonight, 4 goals and 5 assists. He can add to that total tonight. Willie Nylander, 3 goals, 6 assists, 9 points. And as I go down to number 12, which I won't even bother going, is there any other Leaf there? No. No, there's not. Where's Austin Matthews? All right? No, don't get me wrong. I'll get into this. Like, I want him to succeed. And yes, did he score a goal in a pivotal Game 6 against Ottawa? Yes, he did. But let's face it. He's not Nathan McKinnon. He's not Connor McDavid. You know, he's not Leon Draisaitl. So let's temper it. Let's temper what our expectations are, I guess, with the hopes until he shows it. Forget it. So, what else are we going to talk about here? Well, we're going to move on to the playoffs, and we'll talk at the end maybe about a few news and notes in the NHL. Round 2, live from Toronto Monday night, where I resonate. We bleed blue and white, Toronto Maple Leaf country. A little belief in the first round. We can see it slowly coming. Slowly coming. Stop your car, take a look to your right. The bus stops, you're seeing a few Leaf hats here. Leaf jerseys here and there. A little more and more. People are not afraid anymore. It's okay, I'm going to support the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm going to get out there. I'm not going to expect the worst, but I'm not going to overdo it either. I found myself in a situation where, I'm seeing Ottawa jerseys in the local area here. 3 or 4 years ago, would have trash talked. Would have ran my mouth about Toronto running them out of the playoffs. But I'm beyond that now. Maybe it's maturity. Maybe it's realism that I'm going to enjoy the ride for the Maple Leafs. But we're going to look at the reality is that for 9 years, I guess it's 9 years, that the core four has been put together. And again, Tavares maybe not there the whole time, but the core four, for the lengthy period of time that I've witnessed them in the playoffs, have not necessarily moved the needle into the positive direction that the hopes of a Stanley Cup are coming to Toronto. But let's have fun with it. Let's proudly wear the jerseys, proudly put the hats on. Cheers, have a few beers, have a few laughs. Let's cut the shit though. Okay, about this team and the current makeup of this Maple Leaf team. It's go time now, or it's never going to be go time for this group. All right? You've burned the bridge. You've taken too long. You've missed opportunities. For me to have any empathy for the Toronto Maple Leafs in this series going against arguably the best team in the NHL. Defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. Taking on the Toronto Maple Leafs. What are we going to get here? Right? What are we going to get? We're going to tell you that Tampa Bay series, I thought Tampa Bay would put up more of a run here, put up more of a fight, maybe even win that series. Hell no. Florida is suffocating. They're bullies. And they're better than you. Simple as that. Florida Panthers play at such a pace that there's no way you feel comfortable. Whether it's 5-on-5, whether it's a power play, the Florida Panthers are the most aggressive team in the NHL. They are the team that makes you feel uncomfortable. You're thinking that I have to make a decision with the puck in an instant because they're going to be all over me and they're going to counterattack and score. All right? The Florida Panthers, if you look at the top 5 goal scorers in that series against Tampa Bay, Sam Reinhart led with 2 goals and 4 assists. And then 4 other guys, 5 points. That's Bennett, Tkachuk, Anton Lundell, Alexander Barkov. They're pretty strong across all, their lineup. I mean, the goal scoring can come from anywhere. Sam Bennett's going to pose a problem for the Leafs. Right? They don't have that game. They don't necessarily have that top 6 forward that's going to be in the face of Panther players. All right? Is Matthew Knies working to that guy? He might. Right? He scored 3 goals against the Senators. Impressive. Noticeable. Watch for that in this series. Is Austin Matthews noticeable? Is Mitch Marner noticeable? Is William Nylander noticeable? You see where I'm getting at this? Is John Tavares noticeable? Are they noticeable for the wrong reasons? Right? So, for the Leafs to win this series, There is no chance if they can't become successful in the power play. Simple as that. Their superstars have to be difference makers and actually produce. I don't give a shit if Austin Matthews looks great but can't score. Hits 4 posts. Arguably, he was inches wide. No, he has to be inches on point. Simple as that. He has to produce to be successful. This is your barometer, Toronto. This is the barometer. Has this team got what it takes? All right? The jury's out here. I mean, the jury is out. If they get spanked like they did last year in 5 games, then it's going to be a problem. Okay? So I got to believe that the Leafs are going to show up a little better, a little more impactful than they were last year. But you got to prove it. Show it. Show your hand. Willie Nylander led with 9 points in the series. You got to believe he's going to be a force again. Okay? He's going to be a force. Also, when we look at the rest of the series, what are we going to see? We're going to see rough play. Can they keep up with Sam Bennett? I don't know. I don't know. Marchand is going to play a problem like he always has with the Leafs in Boston. And, what's going on there? That's why you got to keep your Bluetooth off. Let me keep my Bluetooth off. Oh, okay. All right. So, Leafs, here's my predictions, guys. It's going to be, I hate to say it, if you're a Leaf fan, cover your ears. Cover your ears. It's going to be Florida in 6. Show me the money. I'm down with a win. I'm down with the Maple Leafs winning the series, moving on to the conference finals. But reality hits me. And I don't like their chances against the Florida Panthers. All right? So Florida in 6, and some of the bets that stand out to me here is Willie Nylander on FanDuel to have 7 or more points in the series. I look at it of any Leaf forward that I feel he's going to be the most effective against Florida, whether it be on special teams, power play, 4-on-4, or 5-on-5. I think you'll see the consistency in Willie Nylander putting up points. Out of the core 4, he's the one I believe in the most. So I like that. Plus 225. 7 plus or more points in the series on FanDuel. Matthew Knies, 2 goals or more. Plus 100, even money. He's going to be a factor on the power play. He's going to pop a couple in. This is kind of where his value as a power forward is going to pay off. He's going to be in front of the net. He's going to pop in a rebound. He's going to be, in a scramble and put one home. Sam Reinhart, great goal scorer for the Florida Panthers. 4+ goals in the series. It looks at plus 330. He only had 2 goals in the first series. But against the Leafs, I think he's going to pop a few more. I think he's going to have a game where he at least has 2 goals and chips in with another goal or more in the rest of the series. So I find that value plus 330. Go over to Bet365, which not as impressed with the number of player series values that I'm seeing here, but I did see Willie Nylander over 2.5 goals at plus 135. There's value there. Again, I think Willie Nylander is going to be the most effective Leaf in this series. On DraftKings, Sam Bennett to have over 4.5 points, plus 130. He's the type of player that's going to give the Leafs problems. I can't say it enough. Sam Bennett is going to be a problem. He's going to be a thorn. He's going to be a pain in the ass for the Maple Leaf defenseman, and he's going to somehow terrorize the Leafs for at least 5 points, if not more. He had 5 points in the series against Tampa Bay, and that's my look. And the series starts on Monday, and we go May 8th, 7th, 9th, 11th, 14th, 16th, 18th. Focal point being a Friday, Game 3. Get your beer out, get your keg out, get your tailgating going. It's go time on Friday in Florida. But Monday it kicks off, and we'll see what happens. And just one note, the Tampa-Florida series, I did bet it. I bet it a lot. I had every night I was betting over-unders, under-overs, whatever the fuck you want to call it. in that series. And to find out that Victor Hedman was playing with what, a cracked bone, a broken leg? And I was thinking to myself watching the series, man, he looked slow. He looked like he was half interested. And you tell me, as the NHL has creeped into engaging the betting world, that one of the premier defensemen in the NHL, I shouldn't know before wagering on your sponsored, various different betting sites, that one of the best defensemen in the world is playing with one leg? That's unacceptable. You wouldn't accept it in the NFL. Why are we accepting it in the NHL? That's significant news. It's also, the NHL is sponsored, these various pick your bracket. Well, maybe I was going to take Tampa Bay because I liked Victor Hedman on the point, was that kind of ick factor that put my decision to go with Tampa. Broken leg may have turned me away from that decision to go with Tampa Bay. So get your head out of your ass, NHL, with this whole betting / injury concealment. Because it's getting ridiculous. It's getting ridiculous. So I'll even put a caveat on the bets I'm giving you. I mean, I could tell you William Nylander's going to have 7+ points. But is he playing with a broken hand? I don't know. Would that affect me telling you that I think that he'll have 7 points? You're goddamn right it would. So I don't know why we're holding these injuries back. The bigger picture is that you have income based on sponsorship for betting, and you have to be true to it and be legit. And that's not legit. It's BS. All right, Carolina. Washington. Interesting series. Carolina, man, I really don't think there was much that they really would fear against the New Jersey Devils. They kind of spanked them. New Jersey had one good game. Pissed away a 3-0 game in the final game that they eventually lost. Carolina, again, one of the betting favorites. Oh, by the way, I should have said, on the various sites in the Florida-Toronto series, Florida heavy favorite. -176 on FanDuel, -180 on 365, -170 on DraftKings, +146 for Toronto on FanDuel, +150 on Bet365, and +145 on DraftKings. Carolina, the favorite here, -164 on FanDuel in the series, -170 on Bet365, -160 on DraftKings. Washington, if you like, they're your cup of tea, +136 on FanDuel, +145 on Bet365, and +140 on DraftKings. So, let's just do Education 101 on various sports books. If I like Washington, you goddamn right, I'm going for the Bet365 option at +145. If I like Carolina, I'm going for DraftKings because it's the lowest juice at -160. Do your shopping. Interesting because Washington had the best record in the Eastern Conference, so they will have home ice advantage. Carolina, heavy betting favorite, as we just talked about. Sebastian Aho is really their go-to guy in Carolina. They do spread out their scoring, but Sebastian Aho, I find, quietly leads his team and produces points. He's a great player, right? Followed by Shevchenkov, who had actually 5 goals, sneaky 5 goals. I didn't pay attention to that. Seth Jarvis, 2 goals, 3 assists. Gostabert, who was limping into the playoffs, wound up with 4 points. And then Jackson Blake. Never heard of this guy. Jackson Blake, 1 goal, 3 assists. Outside of Sebastian Aho and maybe Shevchenkov's 5 goals, nothing really blowing me away about the Carolina offense, but they do get the job done. They do have the talent. Washington side. I think we lose sight on some of the players that make up this roster because of the whole Ovi chase for the Gretzky record. And the fact that he's producing at his age and is still a factor. Right now, he's a goal-scoring specialist, right? He's lined up in the power play. He's a real threat. I like him because he's going to put a puck on net anytime he can, and he should, because he's got a howitzer, and he's just a naturally gifted, all-time great goal scorer. But Dylan Strome led this team with 2 goals and 7 assists. And Dylan Strome is an interesting story. He's a first-round pick, early first-round pick of the Arizona Coyotes. And he's bounced around to Chicago and other teams. and has found a home in Washington. I'm playing like an early first round pick. So he's going to be a factor in this series. What a player. I like that story. Player that's kind of down and out, bouncing around, almost on the verge of being a bust, and reinvents himself and has become a mainstay in Washington. Kudos to the Capitals for recognizing that the value of bringing him on board. Ovechkin, 4 goals in the series against Montreal. Really, really put a dart in the Canadiens' hopes once he scored that opening goal in the elimination game. Game 6. Connor McMichael, nice player there. He's a difference maker, 3 goals, 2 assists. Tommy Wilson, 2 goals and 3 assists. But, Game 5, Bell Center. Place going absolutely apeshit. Montreal up 2-1. And so Tom Wilson completely wrecks. Was it Blue? I can't remember who it was, but he fucking smoked the Montreal Canadian. I just lost train of thought who it was he hit. Smoked him. Puck comes down the ice. Washington turns it around, ties it up. Eventually wins the hockey game. Moves on to Game 6 and eliminates the Montreal Canadiens. One hit stopped the Habs' momentum, stopped the Montreal gains, turned the series around, stomped out the Canadiens for good. Tom Wilson was an absolute beast, and he'll be a beast in this series. How do these two teams match up? I think we're underestimating the Washington Capitals here. I'll tell you what. I'm going to take Washington at 7. Right? I'll take that plus 145 on Bet365. Actually, I'm banned from Bet365. So I'm going to have to go to DraftKings and take the Washington Capitals. I like the mix of Tom Wilson is going to be a problem. He is going to be a factor where the Carolina Hurricanes are going to be the Seth Jarvises of the world, the Sebastian Ahos, the Svetchenkovs are going to be skating around thinking, where's Tom Wilson? Is he on the bench? Is he on the ice? I got to keep my head up because of Tom Wilson. He's going to fuck me up if my head's down. He's going to be in the back of their heads. He's going to be a factor. They're going to take extra pokes at him. There's going to be guys that are going to go out of the way to kind of show that they're going to stand up to Tom Wilson. He is going to be a beast in this series. You watch it. All right? And I think that's going to lead to the demise of the Carolina Hurricanes. Dylan Strome's going to have a strong series. Connor McMichael's going to have a strong series. You're also going to have, again, Alex Ovechkin's going to do his part. He's going to score his 4 or 5 goals. That's what he's going to do. That's what he's there for. That's what he does best. And in net, Carolina, Frederik Andersen should be back. He got knocked out of the Devils series, concussion. At least I believe that's what it was. They never tell the truth, so I don't know. He also just signed a 1-year extension for $2.75 million, so Carolina still has faith in him, even though he's injured every 4 days. But is there a chance we're going to see Peter Kochetkov? I butchered his name, but he was in the series against the Devils. Step below Freddie Andersen. And I think if Freddie Andersen gets hurt again, or is not ready to go by Game 1, which he should be, that's not going to be good news for the Carolina Hurricanes. Logan Thompson played spectacular against Canadians. He had his moments. He's a good goalie. He's not amazing. He's not Bobrovsky. He's not Ottinger. But he is a guy that can get hot and not be a negative detractor for the Washington Capitals. He's had a great season. So I don't worry about him at all. Series kicks off on Tuesday and then Thursday, both starting in Washington, the capital, D.C. So we look at some of the betting going on here. Alex Ovechkin on FanDuel, 4+ goals, plus 160. I like it. Power play, one-timer. It's going to happen. Connor McMichael, I talked about. I liked his game. 2 goals or more in this series. He had 3 goals in the series against Montreal. I think he's going to produce. He's a guy. It's going to get things done. Bet365 didn't really find anything too appealing on here to be worth mentioning, so nothing there. DraftKings, under Shevchenkov of the Carolina Hurricanes, 3+ goals, plus 240. Yeah, he had 5 goals again in the Devils series. He's going to put the puck on net. He's going to be a factor. There's going to be some goals scored in the series. And I really think there's going to be at least one ridiculously stupid game here. As we've seen both Carolina and Washington had in their respective series where things just got out of hand offensively. So the bet of 10 plus goals in a single game plus 200, there's value there. There's absolute value there. It's going to happen. All right. Other news and notes in this series, Taylor Hall, Carolina Hurricanes, signs a 3-year extension, $9.5 million over 3 years. But again, Washington in 7. Thought I had another note on this. I was going to talk about not necessarily this series, but DraftKings. At the beginning of round 1, they had a lot more, bets that were, will this series have this? Like, how many of the wildcard teams will advance? How many shutouts will there be in the actual round? So they didn't have that, or at least I couldn't find it on DraftKings. But I expect because Winnipeg and St. Louis are still going, that has been delayed. So we'll see what happens with that. But keep an eye out for that. Some interesting bets there. Now we're on to a barn burner. You like that term, barn burner? The Edmonton Oilers take on the Vegas Golden Knights. Now the Edmonton Oilers, I thought, would bow out to the LA Kings. I didn't think they would have more than Connor McDavid and Draisaitl, which I think could, on their own, have taken out anybody in the NHL. However, they got the support, especially later in the series, from other guys on the roster. Even Evander Kane returning, got a few goals, was a factor in this series. Stuart Skinner got chased, which I thought would happen. Calvin Pickard now in, looks to be the starting goaltender. But like, who's kidding ourselves? I didn't see this bet, but come on, what game do we think that we'll see another Stuart Skinner signing? Or sighting, not signing. Sighting, a Stuart Skinner sighting from the Edmonton Oilers. They're going to bounce back and forth. They're not locked into one guy. They're going to jump back and forth between the two. No question. It's a fucking tire fire for the goaltending in Edmonton. And they're hoping that the rest of the roster makes up for it. Matthias Ekholm out again. The thought was he would only not be available in that first round. He won't be there again. There's no upside to him not being there. It's going to be a taxing on their defense core. It's been a comedy act with Nurse and Bouchard defensively. And if there's a team that's going to take advantage of it, it's the Golden Knights. The LA Kings played more of a defensive role, counterattack, where the Vegas Golden Knights are a little more aggressive. They got, offensive-minded. So we're going to see some goals in this series, and I like it, man. There's going to be a lot of shit going on in this series. A lot of goals. I think it's going to get right out of hand. It's going to get right out of hand. Edmonton's a -114 favorite on FanDuel, -115 on both Bet365 and DraftKings. Vegas, -105, FanDuel and 365, and DraftKings. So all three across the board. Pretty similar. I'm going to say the Edmonton Oilers win this series in 6. I was high in the first round that the Vegas Golden Knight value was at least to get to the Stanley Cup final. But the way Edmonton has reinvigorated their hopes that maybe they don't have quite the fall off we expected. Maybe they were able to recover from those injuries and not as banged up as we thought they were. Yes, their goaltending is a problem, but I think that with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, that it might overshadow a slow-starting Jack Eichel, which maybe not. I think he's going to step up. Edmonton's Achilles heel is going to be the goaltending. Simple as that. Goaltending. Can they keep the puck out of the net? They're going to score 6 goals, but will they give up 7? Which could very well happen. McDavid obviously led, him and Draisaitl, 11 and 10 points respective for the Edmonton Oilers. Evan Bouchard, 7 points, 4 of those being goals from the D-man. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, solid 5 points. Connor Brown, journeyman Connie Brown, 5 points, effective. On the Vegas side, Thomas Hertl, Tomas Hertl, 5 points, 3 goals, 2 assists. Eichel, 5 points. Mark Stone, 4 points. Shea Theodore, Brett Howden, 4 and 3 points. Man, really nothing standing out, nothing spectacular. Nobody putting the team on their back, but they got the job done against the Minnesota Wild. It did not look good halfway through that series. And Vegas, Aiden Hill, solid goaltender. He's in net. He's going to be their guy. Edmonton, it's going to be a carousel. Goaltenders in and out and in and out. Injuries talked about. Matthias Ekholm for the Oilers. Pavel, I can't even pronounce his name. Day-to-day effect. We'll see what happens. That makes a difference there for the Vegas Golden Knights, but I'm sure they got the depth. This series kicks off Tuesday. It's going to be the late game live from Vegas. Man, that'd be fun to go to Vegas just to follow a couple games, stay in Vegas, enjoy the time there. Oh, to dream. FanDuel, minus 114. I think that's solid value for the Oilers to win the series. You probably, if I was going to take that, which I probably will still, you probably want to put a little more cheddar on it to make it worthwhile. Draisaitl on FanDuel, plus 135 for 4 goals or more. I'm going to pencil that in. I know he got 3 goals in the first series against the LA Kings, but again, I think it's going to be a little more of a shit show of goals. So look at Leon Draisaitl. Any props with him goal scoring, there's value. Bet365, you have Connor McDavid to lead, have over 2.5 goals at plus even money, plus 100. How does he? He's got the puck at his stick. He plays like 40 fucking minutes a night. So it's, I think it's a no-brainer, right? Hat trick in one game. That's possible. Draisaitl to have over 3.5 goals in this series as well, at better odds than FanDuel. So if you have both FanDuel and Bet365, focus your efforts on that bet at plus 160 for Draisaitl to score 4 more goals. DraftKings, Connor McDavid to have most points in the series, plus 130. Evander Kane to have 2+ goals. He had a couple goals. He's going to be a factor. And this, again, is going to be a shit show of goals scored, I think. So plus 145, good value there for Evander Kane. Draisaitl, again, back to the 4 goals or more, plus 185. But even look at plus 5 goals or more, plus 425. This is going to go 6 games, if not 7. You think Draisaitl's not going to be a factor? He's going to go off in at least 1 game, or 3 or 4. 3 goals at least. He's going to have a hat trick. He's going to have something. Draisaitl's the guy. And mark this down. Write it down. Okay? Wait, you ready? Got that pen? All right? So it's going to be anytime game, 10 goals or more in one of those games, plus 145. It's going to happen at least once, if not twice. It's going to get out of hand, guys. It's going to get out of hand. And if I look at the Dallas series, well, I don't know who they're playing. Right? So I'm not going to touch that right now. But they got obviously the hot hand with Mikko Rantanen. Roope Hintz, 7 points as well. Wyatt Johnston. Thomas Hurley, defenseman. He was part of the 4 Nations for Canada. He's really moving up the ladder of recognizable defensemen in the NHL. Solid game there. Tyler Seguin, veteran, Stanley Cup champion with the Bruins. Back, produced 4 points, a couple goals here and there. We don't know the status of Jason Robertson and Miro Heiskanen. Both, seem like they were potentially options late in the series against the Colorado Avalanche, but never happened. So is Robertson closer than Heiskanen? I don't know. Is Heiskanen closer than Robertson? I don't know. NHL? What the fuck are you doing on injuries? I don't know what you're doing because I can't tell. And those are 2 significant players that I would love to know from a betting standpoint. Are they going to be available in the series or are they not? And one note I did miss in the Leafs series, Aaron Ekblad will miss game 1, defenseman for the Florida Panthers, being suspended for the elbow to the face in that final game, or that game 5, or game 4 against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So keep that in mind as the Florida Panthers are still loaded all around the roster, but they're going to miss Aaron Ekblad for game 1. So just some other news and notes for the NHL. Quick thoughts. Coaching change in New York. Mike Sullivan moves from Pittsburgh. Suddenly he's no good for Pittsburgh. But the Rangers feel he's the reason. He's the man that can lead this team. They probably don't want to break up that roster. That roster was expected to make a playoff run, not just make the playoffs, which he couldn't do, but actually make a run and make a trip to the Stanley Cup final. Rick Tocchet is out in Vancouver. Decided not to come back. We don't know the real story, what was going on. Did he turn down a big package to get closer to the East Coast? Maybe. We'll see what happens. Perfect fit in Philly? Makes sense. Let's see what happens. Scheifele out. We talked about that. World Championships for you hockey fans out there. Traditionally, for the teams that don't make the playoffs, many of the players go over and represent their home countries in the World Championships, Ice Hockey Championships. This year's tournament will take place May 9th to 25th in Denmark. Some good betting options there. Check out the rosters. Canada, solid roster. I mean, you look at the players, they're not necessarily the Sidney Crosbys of the world. But when you look at the European rosters, the Czech Republic is an example. Pasternak is there. Sweden's pretty loaded. When you look at their roster, so a lot of the European teams obviously take this more of a priority than the Canadian and U.S. teams do. Actually, the U.S. team has a very solid young team. Take a look at their roster. Also, Marc-Andre Fleury, legendary goaltender, best known for his time in the Pittsburgh Penguins, first overall pick back in the day. 21-year career comes to an end. And still remaining without coaches are the Anaheim Ducks, Pittsburgh Penguins, Boston Bruins, Chicago Blackhawks, Philadelphia Flyers, Vancouver Canucks, and the Seattle Kraken. So a lot of movement there. A lot of cheapskate teams that will not provide, big dollars for coaches, even though the coaches, like a Jim Montgomery, has shown can make a difference between a playoff team and a non-playoff team. And that's it for the Overrated Experience. So I hope you enjoyed the journey here with me, here live on Facebook and YouTube. We'll put this up as a podcast as well. You can find it on your Spotify's, Apple Podcasts, everywhere you can find your podcasts will be seen. And you can follow us on Overrated Experience, Overrated EXPER2. That's Overrated EXPER2, and that's on X. Let us know that you listened to the show. Let us know your thoughts. Respond to tweets, whatever you want to do. But this pleasure was all yours in this live streaming. I did it for you. The Overrated Experience right now is over and out. Bye-bye.